Hi guys, this is David Negrin, host of the Script Podcast and executive director of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. I'm excited to announce that we've created a Patreon campaign for the Script. Patreon is like a Kickstarter, but it allows you to give ongoing pledges every month and receive ongoing rewards. Of course, the Script Podcast will continue to be free, but we're just asking for a little help. We release 4 or 5 podcasts a month, but we'd like to do more. We'd also like to improve our audio quality and release video podcasts with rich content. So here's how you can help. Become a patron of the Script Podcast and gain access to our VIP activity feed with premium content. There, you'll be able to communicate privately with myself and my co-hosts after every podcast. You can get a packet of original screenwriting guides written exclusively for members of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. You can receive our monthly tracking board preview podcast for Hollywood insider updates on big script sales and the hottest spec screenplays to hit the market. You can get access to full on-demand video of NYC Screenwriters Collective events, lectures, and panel discussions. At the highest patron levels, you can even request the film or TV series we analyze and come on the script yourself to analyze it. So please, check out all our rewards, join our inner circle. Become a patron of the Script Podcast at patreon.com/thescript.
Are you trying to get me drunk?
Yes.
Are you here with anyone?
No, I'm not.
Are you seeing anyone?
I am.
He's a lucky guy.
Girl.
Why isn't she here with you tonight?
We should stop, please. Slept in pretty late this morning. Feeling okay?
Don't even start with that.
This is The Script, the official podcast of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. I'm David Negrin. This is The Script Halloween primer. We're going to be doing horror podcasts intermittently until Halloween this year, and we've got special horror podcasters, horror experts. Tonight with me are Christina Leith Malin, Alka Kushalani, and Mark Mashandaro. Guys, welcome.
Hey, David.
Hey, David.
Hello.
You guys are some of our favorite Screenwriters Collective horror experts, freaks, like...
That sounds fair.
Okay, speak for yourself.
The horror workshops, when we have horror scripts in the collective, it's a whole special group of people who show up for those.
Yay.
And I'm always worried that the script is a little edgy, and then you guys like you are like, no way, you didn't take it nearly as far enough, not gruesome enough, not horrible enough. So I'm always amazed. So it was really exciting for me to get into some horror tonight. We're doing the indie horror films Contracted and Contracted Phase 2. These are smaller IFC horror films. The first one came out in 2013, Contracted, written and directed by Eric England. Contracted Phase 2 came out about a week or two ago. Yeah. Written by Craig Waldenziak and directed by Josh Forbes. And one of the things I think we'll talk about tonight is that although they are not the same artists, there were some connections between the two films. Is there, Christina, do you want to say a little bit about what, maybe some guidelines when we are reviewing horror? Like, what's really important? Because horror is such a overwritten genre. There's so many horror movies. What
you're saying is it's excellent and it's keeping the industries alive.
Yeah, in every horror movie, horror is the genre with the highest margin.
And other than comic books, they have the best franchise possibility horror.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but they have the biggest margins on their movies too, and what it costs and stuff. So, but when we're judging story for a horror film, what do we have to look for in terms of originality?
Well, and I think everyone here can speak to this. Horror is a genre, but there are a lot of subgenres. So people that don't know horror usually say, I don't like that stuff. I don't like blood and gore. But there's a lot of horror that's not gore. There are a lot of subgenres, like your monsters, your slashers, your psychological. So it's key to know exactly what it is. Is it a drama with horrific element, or is it a horror? Is it a slasher? Is it a gore fest? Is it a monster movie, or is it something paying homage, maybe like Hatchet? Where it lies, and then after that you start dissecting it in comparison to its like predecessors and what it tried to do and how it took the genre somewhere else. That's usually the way I look at it.
I was gonna say, we got to focus on the new monster, right? Every episode.
Pretty much.
right? A new monster in the room.
I don't see anyone doing the creature from the Black Lagoon right now.
Yeah, but the original element of every horror is the monster / the threat.
It's more psychoanalytical, not to go too deep in this, but it's more about a surreal or experience out of the norm or that jars you. So it can be a fantastical element like Starman that could loosely be put in horror, or where that blur of sci-fi is, but it's something outside of the norm. So a ghost, because it's outside of what your normal reality is. That's what makes it a horrific or a fantastic situation or experience or story.
But is supernatural a subgenre then of horror?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
The
I
others,
see what you're saying. Okay. So why don't you then, and you guys feel free to chime in, where did you place Contracted and Contracted Phase 2?
You know what? I have 15 pages of notes, so I'd like everyone else to chime in before I steamroll this.
But you just dropped this genre expertise, subgenre expertise.
I'm kidding. It's like a cliff note about 15 sentences. But no, I feel like I probably shouldn't say something that might lean what other people thought.
Okay,
because I study this, so I want to back off.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any ideas on the subgenre of horror for Contracted?
I feel like Contracted 1, it felt very kind of psychological horror, and I know there were gory elements, but it was very much, a close first person, and we were definitely with one character and her journey throughout. So I'm going to say that was more psychological horror. And then Contracted 2 was full-on gore fest. Yeah. I think they had a lot of fun with the gore.
Okay.
I don't know if this is an official genre, but I would say sort of body horror.
Yes!
In the sense that, like The Fly.
Yes.
Or I don't know if anyone saw Tetsuo.
Sure.
That sort of thing. We're absolutely disgusting. Yeah, it's very, very, very specific to just decay and damage to the flesh, which absolutely there's a psychological element as well. So that would apply to the first one.
And that's great. Yeah, in the first one,
not so much to the second at all.
The teeth, the falling out of teeth thing, is a really common nightmare that people have, and psychoanalytically it's just stress thing, it's a control thing, it's like when you're overwhelmed,
right?
But that's not the least of the shit that went down in Contracted.
Teeth, eyes, I mean, come on.
Oh man. So what do you think, Christina? We come close at all?
No, you guys totally nailed it. I had a scream of yes a few seconds ago.
I heard it.
Did I elicit that scream?
No, you did. Alka was right because it's completely psychological. It's so claustrophobic. You're so on a journey with the character, and I think they tried to reiterate it in the second one in a different way, but it was very clear in the first one. But Mark nailed it, and he nailed it because that's what I feel like where they got it right. The elephant in the room. During neither one of these movies did I see the word zombie used.
Yeah.
And we know this is a new modern take on zombie. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, if I want to make a zombie movie, but I don't want to be in the zombie subgenre, how do I take it to a different level? And so I was thinking is
in Zombie, the zombies are the antagonists, not the protagonists.
Yeah, well, not always. Look at Shaun of the Dead. Look at that one
Shaun of the Dead,
Reverend.
They're mostly running.
The Reverend. There's a lot of them where the Battery. There's a lot of where the zombie can be the
right,
protagonist or antagonist.
Let's get this out of the way because these are
sideways. We're going side. Let me finish one quick thought. But because Mark nailed it, and I said, how do you elevate it? How do you elevate the genre? And it's calling it the new genre of body horror.
Yeah,
it's total body horror. And instead of saying it's a zombie, it's really seeing how the body decays. He nailed it. What's another? That should be the new subgenre that kind of evolves us out of the whole Night of the Living Dead sequence.
Mark named a couple. Yeah. Is there a classic body horror that you think of?
I have a list.
Just
glad you asked.
Nice. 1 or 6 will do.
15? Okay. No, I'm kidding. The classic way to look at it, and the reason why I say it's not completely original, is almost all of Cronenberg's is always body horror. He lives in body horror. From Shivers to Rabbit to even his son Brandon did Antiviral, and it landed on the list of like hard to watch films. And I don't know if you guys know Antiviral. Yeah, so that's I was thinking Aliens because that's actually been referenced in a lot of books.
That's a great way to pull in. You're right, because Aliens is always thought of as sci-fi action, but there's plenty of body horror in it. Men
and women, yeah, of course. So those are a few. I have a lot, but those are
awesome.
And there's a Spanish movie that I mentioned to you guys earlier called, and it's really hard to take in, called Aftermath, Genesis, and it was a trilogy of short stories. The gentleman's name is like Nacho Ceras, I believe, and the one story Genesis, the one that I got like thrown by that reminded me of both of these, was the one about this mortician that basically assaults his corpses. Mm-hmm. And that's the
lovely
whole 30-minute movie, and at the very end he takes the woman's heart and home and feeds it to his dog. So on that note, go ahead, David.
So what I was gonna say was, this is fascinating for me because I'm learning so much about horror right now. When you say a horror movie is hard to take in, you love horror, and so do you measure? And Mark, I'd love to hear your perspective, and Alka too. Yeah. Do you measure the success of a horror movie on how difficult it is for you to sit through it?
No, me neither. That said, I am always sort of excited / curious to see if a film can, get me to that point. I think I'm definitely a little more desensitized than most.
Only 2 have ever brought me there. 2 films that I wish I could unwatch.
Which ones? I'm so curious.
Human Centipede 2. And a Siberian film.
Which film?
A Siberian film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see the second Human Centipede. I saw the first one.
First one's fine. It's goofy, but the second one.
Yeah. It was
that's
definitely a little more
there
comedic.
There isn't a mark of horror that says, "Oh wow, rad! You've scared me more, grossed me out." And I think that was a problem with a lot of filmmakers, and that whole hostile Human Centipede. That we have Rat Pack, the Frank Sinatra, blah blah blah.
Where does Human Centipede fall in the horror subgenres?
It's gore. I want to say it's gore.
It's gore.
It's stupid gore.
It's stupid gore.
Well, here, let me
kitschy though, right? It's really kitschy.
No, it's not. It's bad, and that's what I was gonna say. There's a Rat Pack, and the Brat Pack in the '80s with like Rob Lowe, and then we had this thing called the Splat Pack in the early 2000s with like Rob Zombie, the guy that did Dog Soldiers, Neil, I forgot his name.
Yeah, Marshall. Neil Marshall.
Eli Roth, and all these.
He did The Descent.
Exactly.
Oh, The Descent is a great movie.
I love The Descent.
But the thing was, then they saw this cluster of guys, and they were like,
Alka,
how can we outdo that? But that wasn't what people wanted. And they people started tuning out because it became this gigantic war fest, but they weren't really getting anywhere with it. So no, being grossed out doesn't win your box office at all.
Well, the French, there are a bunch of French filmmakers who've made some really disturbing films.
I wrote a book on it
in the past 10 years or so. Martyrs.
Mm-hmm.
Inside. What is it? High Tension.
Attention,
Yes.
Interior, Martyrs. Yep.
Wow, I'm gonna put together a list at the end of this and just like
I literally wrote a book on this, guys, on the French
mind.
women of 21st century French horror. I wrote my thesis on that.
What was the title?
Nice.
Objectification repackaged, the women of 21st century French horror.
Wow.
Nice.
And I started from the Marquis de Sade in literature, through the Guignol in theater, through the genre.
Is that something we can link to in the show notes? People want to read it? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
for the diehards.
I ended with the new wave extremities, which is exactly what he's talking about, which is extreme French horror, and a lot of them consider an homage to American horror. Ironically.
So, Alka, do you measure a horror movie by how difficult it is to watch?
To some extent, but I think, for me, I'm always looking for greater resonance. Like, I want it to reflect something that is happening in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think, while I was not a fan of either of these, like, I don't think I would go back to either of them in the future. I think that they do have greater resonance. And so for me, they were successful on some level, but we can get into that when you're ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So just usually we do a 3 up, 3 down, but we got like so many people. We're gonna do 1 up, 1 down for now, and because we got 2 movies, we're gonna do double beat sheets too. I can't believe you guys are down for that. We're just quickly. What's the thing you liked the most about the movie, and what's the thing you didn't like about the movie? And I guess you got to do it for 1 and 2. And Alka, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think getting into the resonance of zombies, it's like I really feel like these films are about, millennials being completely disconnected from their bodies. And I think that this is really, like from the stilted dialogue to, their relationship with their phones and each other. I think there's something going on there that actually says something about the world. And I like that. So that's my number one thing in both of them, where I kind of think the psychology of, being fearful of like social interaction and the most pleasurable, ostensibly, of all social interactions, sex, it's I think that's fascinating. So I think the subject matter and the exploration of this generation in this particular way as zombies, I think is really very interesting. And
because normally vampires are the stand-in for venereal disease, right? That's the metaphor there. So, but now we're zombies are now taking off that subset of fears.
I mean, I think with zombies, it's also like a loss of humanity that they always seem to represent. And so when you look at films like these, you're really looking at that when you take somebody, like we know these characters and we kind of delve into their lives and we see them lose their humanity little by little. I mean, that's very interesting. And I think the zombie oeuvre is like a perfect place to explore how we are, in our modern context of not really relating to each other. It's like, and having very strange relationships with all things having to do with body and intimacy and, all that stuff.
And where did these movies fall short for you?
Well, I thought I didn't feel like there was psychological dimension. At the same time, I know I'm saying that you're losing the psychological dimension, but I felt like it was just stripped too bare. I would have loved to have seen. Can you be specific? So there's definitely more to this relationship that Samantha has with her mother, correct? Mm-hmm. We see this woman, she's kind of overbearing, she's kind of on her jock, and
in the first movie she says, "What's that word you like to call me, dyke?"
Yeah, and then, the way she approaches her with that, is he a priest or is he a social worker or somebody? And Samantha says, you would just do anything to get with any man, right? Or there's some allusion to her being man hungry. And I thought that was very fascinating. But they just kind of scratch at the surface of that relationship. And that relationship with its history of Samantha's drug addiction or whatever, I felt like it was too spare the way they had drawn it. And
firstly, can I just say, while we didn't get the filmmakers back for Contracted Phase 2, how much of the cast did we get back?
Well, we got back the drug dealer.
Two.
Yeah, everyone who was alive after the first one.
And a few flashbacks.
The drug dealer, who I really
Yeah.
liked. Can I just...
The drug dealer? You like him?
I thought he belonged in a better movie.
I love Pineapple Express.
Was he in Pineapple Express?
No.
Or he was just
I don't
like,
think so.
that's the
But
illusion. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
No, I thought that drug dealer was like the love child of Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen, but he was like better than both, possibly. You know, like I just thought, oh, this guy belongs in a better movie, in a bigger movie. You know, he was very alive, that character. He was like very full and just on in both of these for such a limited amount of time, but it was a very rich performance.
And what about do we have an antagonist? Do we have a bad guy?
Oh, yeah, for sure. BJ.
Is it played by the same actor?
Yep.
It didn't even look like that guy. Like, I feel like in the haze, he was better looking.
He was shrouded a lot more.
Is it bad to say? I thought,
younger.
he's like...
You should
but
tell
then it
him
was like,
that. I'm
no,
sure
he
he'd
got the
appreciate
roofie
that.
from the drug dealer. So, and then you're like, oh yeah, I would definitely need a roofie for that. So,
Everyone wants to look better.
Oh, snap. You know what? No, IMDb is telling us that BJ is played by a different actor.
Yeah, he was definitely hotter in the first movie.
Yeah, I think they made him up to look similar.
Nice.
Not
well,
really.
In the first one, you didn't see him clearly, so he had a little
that's
bit of
right. He was
mystery.
barely visible.
Which I liked.
He was just like that dude. At a
No,
party.
but it was for the best. When we saw him in the second one, we were like, bring the shower curtain back.
Yep.
You know?
You were so not nice.
And this is important in horror that the antagonist returning is almost more important than the protagonist returning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? If you look at Saw, Jigsaw was the mainstay of that film, series, right?
Right.
Mark, one up, one down that for our films. What did you like?
I would say, with the first one, very simply, just the immediate punchline, that opening scene, I thought was fantastic. Seeing the toe tag, the corpse rocking back and forth, cut to him washing his cum out of the little test tube. And,
I had to watch it three times to realize what was going on there.
And that's it. That's our introduction to the killer, the threat. That's what we know we're watching. And I thought that was great. The second one, I think they went a little bit more into destruction of the flesh. The scenes with the guy using the box cutter to try to exhume the maggots from himself.
That took me back a little bit to Terminator.
It took me back to Hellraiser.
Or Hellraiser.
Definitely.
Interesting.
Definitely,
okay.
It gives the box cutter to the person that wants to cut it out.
Yeah, so that stuff was cool. I really didn't like any of the characters. That's my main issue with all of it. I think the concept was good, and I like the idea of following this character, Samantha in the first one, just slowly decaying from the inside out, and everything in her life is withering away simultaneously. We see over the opening credits, we see the shot of the plants that she's caring for, that it's so closely connected to her identity. I was upset about that they didn't actually show it withering away. Just all of a sudden we cut to it just dead already. I felt like they lost that metaphor that could have been a rich metaphor.
They did a really great job of slowly decaying the woman, right?
Absolutely. I think they did a really good job with the physicality, but the psychology, not so much. I really didn't care about her at all, honestly. I thought, and that's separate from her being sort of an awful person, which I think, I assumed that was intentional. I mean, by the end, it becomes more and more egregious as she, kills two people and ultimately passes the disease on to this poor guy who's been after her.
Where did that come from? Like, what was her motivation
for doing that? Yeah,
for fucking that poor guy. Other than I need to fuck him into
don't
the
know.
sequel.
Yeah, there seemed, there was a lack of motivation, I thought, for a bunch of things. In the second one, there was somewhat of a Deus Ex Machina situation with, the killer coming to the hospital at the end. Why did he have to do that? Why make himself vulnerable? The guy's about to die. There was no need.
There was so much wrong with the killer coming back
exactly.
to the hospital. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's hard to even start. Honestly, there's so many things to pick apart. But
and that's one of the things that you guys as lovers of the horror genre. One of the things that gives horror a bad name is bad character development and bad story.
Bad flow, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about horror is that you can really cheat on this. You can be fairly minimalistic with your character development. It's really more about the threat, the monster, whatever that thing is. As long as you get a sense of where that character is, the protagonist is psychologically. You don't need to do a whole lot of backstory. You don't need to really go into many relationships necessarily. Yeah. The problem with these, you can get away with that, and it can be really just stripped down to the basic element of what is this thing that that could kill this character, and is it going to succeed?
Can I just say something about her passing it on? I really felt like one of the themes here was her sexual confusion, right? So she's a lesbian, but she has sex with this guy, BJ, at some random guy at a party. Now, granted, we find out later that she was drugged, but there's something indefinite about her sexuality. Even this lover of hers, Nikki, is, I feel like, always challenging her. Like, there's something that's just not defined enough about her and her as a lesbian. So I felt like her having sex with Riley was, I think, the ultimate act of her being a lesbian is that she was having this like angry, I will kill you with my body sex with this guy to say, no, this is not, this is who I am. I am a lover of women, So I think she was making a choice there, which was very interesting. And I kind of want to bring in, like, I thought there were allusions to the film Repulsion, which is a far superior film, but they're like things that from the way it's shot to the way we kind of follow her into that moment where she kills him. Essentially she signs the death sentence, and I think there is something about that that's very kind of like caught up in her sexuality, and it's not an act of killing. It's a statement.
Mm.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I would buy that. I wasn't emotionally, involved in the character enough to care about that statement, I guess. I just wanted to see, how ultimately she was just going to wither away.
Christina, can you give me your one up, one down?
Sure. My up is that there was no mention of zombies, and they did kind of lay out a ground rule of a logical timeline from infection to maggot-filled whatever. That was, I like that, because it's a big problem with a lot of horror, including things that I've written, is you have to have your rules for horror. You have to know what are the guidelines by which your bad guys, your killers do. My down was in all three of the characters. The girl versus the guy, if you look at their two stories, hers actually has a really kind of slow, progressive degradation of her emotional state. Like, she starts kind of confused and angst, and she slowly becomes very evil until she's like full-on mean zombie. Whereas it seemed like he was like this hero zombie all the way to the end, and then he turned into a zombie. And so I'm not sure about their emotional rules. Like, is it a progressive zombieism emotionally, or is it like a steadfast, to each zombie his own? That was unclear to me, and I hated BJ's nihilist kind of 7-ish, I'm gonna kill everything in the hospital. That didn't work for me. So
Yeah.
In contracted and contracted phase 2, are the rules of the universe set, and are they the same in both movies, and are they ambiguous, or are they well understood?
I think the rules are all over the place. The rules
one,
are
I
really
felt like it had to be sex or some type of intimacy.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like in 2 you could touch, because all he did was share his grandma's liquor glass, and she got infected.
Well, in the first one, she kills her friend. So there was blood involved. There was no sex there. But she becomes a zombie, which we find out in the second one, actually.
What?
right,
Liquid.
and she becomes a zombie immediately. There's no,
Yeah.
but I think that's because she's dead. Though
Although-
I think that
Yeah,
you can just
although
make
in fairness, that
leap.
yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is, in fairness, that we don't see that until the second film. So if you just look at the first film as its own entity, you're right. It seems to be
The rules are pretty set for
but they
contracted.
use the day thing, it's definitely more clear in that
it's
one,
day
but-
1 through day 6, right? Are we gonna call? I think it's day 6 that they turn.
Ultimately, yeah.
They give the day markers with title cards.
That's
Yeah,
true.
which I
Right.
felt like were not adequate.
I think that's
Well,
them trying to set a rule.
I think contracted, the first one had a basic set of rules, and then in contracted
Yeah.
phase 2 they're just like, nah, let's just
was
open
messy.
this up
All over the place.
because then you gotta
It's fun,
because
but messy.
because plot wise then you've got to contrive a bunch of sexual and unprotected sex interactions to make things move, right?
But on the other hand, you do have an unprotected sex act in Contracted 2, and that's with the sister, Riley's sister, and her husband, right? Riley walks in on them,
yeah.
right? They're
that was
having
funny.
sex, and at the end, the
Oh, that-
sister
that
is
dip.
full on foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, but she got
know,
it from the dip, right? Ugh.
She
that's
got
so
it from
gross.
the dip, but then she had sex with her
Yeah.
husband, who's standing there looking like clean as a whistle.
So you're right. We can't gauge how
Yeah.
when.
Yeah,
Well,
he should be.
Right,
He should be
right.
zombied out too.
he should be at
Well,
her same pace because they would have
also
kissed her, hugged her.
the girl that
Harper
Riley
kisses.
takes to that
One
event.
kiss.
Goes,
Yeah.
exactly, Harper.
Oh,
I forgot
poor
her name.
Harper.
Yeah, he kisses her. She dies before he does, and it's the timeline is off.
But
there
I think
as well.
because
maybe-
he's digging stuff out of his body,
No,
I feel
they're
like
just
he's
maggots,
actually.
though. No, they're maggots.
Yeah, but maybe I feel like his longevity is due to his proactive digging out of, the secretions or whatever that are kind of,
Yeah.
he's squeezing them out. He's
I
digging
think
them
it's-
out. He's kind of prolonging his life by doing that. I mean, otherwise, why do it?
No, it's
Is it-
fluid. I
Yeah,
think that was
see.
just body
I think
horror.
I think the fact that we have to reach for these justifications just shows that the rules are not
Established,
very
right.
clear.
And
Yeah.
is that a problem? Do we like rules to be a little bit sorted, or do we like it to be ambiguous? How does it affect the narrative?
I'm okay with it in a David Lynch film when it's
Yeah.
not that clear, but in this film it has to be.
Well, no, it
I
doesn't.
think-
Go ahead.
I also think that how clear they are is totally that's inconsistent because in the second film they spoon feed you everything that happened in the first. We start at exactly
Right.
that moment that we left off in
Yep.
Contracted 1. We have flashbacks. There are all kinds of elements that give us this backstory of what happened. But then the rules aren't there. The rules and the the freaking motivations of this BJ You
Well,
know, let's
here's
get
the
into
thing,
BJ
too.
if we're
Oh,
gonna, you know,
that's
like
a big one.
because that character is such a hot mess. It's like I really.
All right, guys, we need to start the beat sheet half of the podcast, so we will
Wait,
get.
can I just get 1 second to defend something?
Yeah.
We're going from 1 to 2 and saying that all the rules they don't, because if you look at cult classic Evil Dead versus Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead was kind of like its own kind of horror, and then Evil Dead 2 went off the rails, but it chose to be that. So this might be in that kind of genre of like cult legend all over the place if it wants to be. It depends on how the audience takes it.
But Mark, you said you wanted it here because why? Because the rest of the movie was a little ambiguous. Right?
Yeah. It's not like everything else was strong. Honestly,
Yeah,
for me,
so-
I felt like that. You know, that was just sort of part.
It
of
was
the
lazy.
equation.
It wasn't intentional
yes.
ambiguity.
Yeah, I this is not Evil Dead.
Yeah, but I feel like it was
Let's
in the
not-
sense
let
that it
us
was so
not
darn goofy,
compare.
and the guy was so darn goofy, and the whole bleeding into cheese dip. Like, there was so much about this that if you're
Yeah,
trying to
that's-
put it in the Academy, you know, get it nominated, you're
Right,
kidding.
right.
Like, it went over the top.
where-
It didn't have good pacing.
Sure.
It just tried to
Although
give you
it
a little
didn't-
bit of love, homage to the first one.
Can you guys characterize?
that
Can you
cheese-
guys?
Cheesy was cheesy.
Yeah. Can you guys?
Yeah, that was
the
that was
cheese
a
and the
poor copy of
song
that.
in that sequence. Oh, that was
God,
so
that they used
good.
for the end titles,
Alice,
the end credits. They
come
used
drink
you-
from the
Can you
chalice.
guys characterize the type of comedy that comes along with these two movies? Because we talk about dark comedy sometimes, and then we talk about kitschy stuff or like silly stuff, and those often accompany traditional horror movies. What about the levity that comes with these films?
See, the thing is, it's what we just said. Like, I want to say, if you guys saw Hatchet was 100%
Yeah.
homage to slasher movies. Then you have your Evil Dead, which just go off the rails, even in 3, even more off the rails. But we say, okay, you're going to be a cult classic. The problem with this is, it's not just an IFC, it's an IFC Midnight. So it's trying to keep this whole like caliber of art house, but it's not quite Shaun of the Dead, and it's not quite Hatchet, and it's somewhere blurry in between because it's not the strongest of narratives.
Was
It's just
Contracted
fun.
Phase 2 more horror comedy than Contracted?
More gagged down, I think.
Yes. I would
I
agree
don't
with
think the
that.
first
It's,
one was funny at all. It was just creepy and sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Comedic in the sense that Sharknado is comedic, I would say.
Total.
Oh,
I
we're
want
starting
a word
this
for
early
that.
on Sharknado.
It's
Reference?
so over the
Sorry.
top funny, but Sharknado
Yeah.
was genius in its Sharknado. We podcasted that movie when it came out. We all loved it. The script was solid. It was all over the top. It was you know, I think that whole realm of comedy is like
Right.
is a new area for action comedy,
It
like
is.
Kung Fury. You guys see Kung Fury, the 30-minute
No.
Swedish martial arts short? It was a Kickstarter. It started with 2 minutes, and it was like an homage to 80s martial arts and police films. But it was over the top, ridiculous, funny. And once you buy that ticket, you take the ride. Same with Sharknado. Horror comedies are more like Hatchet, are more specific though about the type of funny they're doing.
Yep.
Right.
So can we do
Return of
some?
the Living Dead, though, that whole sequence with the two guys that kept becoming zombies at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fantastic.
Yeah, and we like that though, and we admit that was total corn dog. But they never see that. I
Yeah.
think we're having the issue because we were thinking. I'm going back to it. This is kind of artsy. It's reinventing, but maybe it is. Maybe the second is just cornball, and we should stop going. It's so deep.
It did try to. It did have less ambitions in terms of theme, I'd say.
Yeah.
It was
definitely.
more wider crowd pleasing, I'd say. Who was gorier though? Who had the better gore moments and set pieces? The more gory set pieces.
Oh, they both did. I don't know.
Favorites. Let's do that.
Oh, the blood in the dip. When he the first
the cheesy
yeah. I thought it was really like it was so like, oh God, that's so terrible, you know. And you feel bad for him, and he's off, you know. And then his sister goes up to the dip, sticks a chip in it, and eats it. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so hungry."
Okay, who doesn't look at dip? I swear to God, I look for double dippers. I look for crusty edges.
Absolutely.
How does she put that whole nacho in her mouth full of blood?
And
She's
a half months
pregnant.
exactly. Hungry.
Pregnant. I'm even more nervous about food.
Exactly. But you know, once she did that, I was like, oh crap, you know, because it was like it wasn't just her. You immediately you see like, you know,
Dawn
her body.
of the Dead, a zombie baby in the stomach. Dawn of the Dead.
What's worse than a zombie baby? Nothing.
Ever see Dead Alive?
Dead Alive.
Peter Jackson film.
Yes.
His best the woman's her I agree. Her ear comes off while she's eating like pudding of some sort, I think. And then, you know, she takes a big spoonful and actually eats her own ear. You know, and various things are shooting off of her blood and pus, and it's going into other people's food.
But I have a question for Mark and David. Even though I agree with Alka, the whole cheesy thing kind of spun me. Tell me you guys didn't like lose your shit when he was having sex with her and he's like, "What's moving around my dick?" You know?
He's like,
tell me that didn't
it's tingling. It's tingling was great. It was because
I cried for you.
Says it's working.
And then the
maggots
the maggots fall out, and you're just like, it wasn't that, you know, special tingling lube or anything, right?
Oh, that wasn't the KY from your mom's
the KY
day.
with the tingle. Yeah, no, that's not what that was, dude. That girl was in bad shape, you know, and you know, I know he had a thing for her, and maybe he was, you know, it was.
Were they trying to, you know, get us to believe the lighting was so
there
poor
is no
that he
lighting
couldn't
that
tell?
bad.
She had her hair
in the 80s.
She had her hair over her. She had her hair very like artfully placed over her wounds and sores, and you know,
over her giant herpes.
But I mean, Alice. Speaking of Alice, you know, of subject of the song, Alice.
Yeah.
Alice kisses her in spite of her being like this, you know, like sore-covered, Skeletor-looking person.
Yeah, that is
love. That is deep.
But so when I think of, you know, I think a lot about Species when we're talking about this in this movie. Remember Species?
Yeah.
And that was about sexual transmission.
Mate and kill, Black Widow.
Right, and so every time she would mate, she would turn hot again, and so our protagonist in Contracted didn't have the ability to turn hot to get, you know.
But that didn't stop her.
No,
you know?
it did not.
It's like it did not. It did not keep her from her prospects.
Here's another thing with her. She kept coming in contact sexually or otherwise with people, like aggressively to hurt them or to change them or to bring them in on this horrific thing, and he didn't. And I'm wondering, like, what I need to know how zombies become bad zombies.
Well, why did she go so bad?
Right. And
at what point did she turn? Mark, what do you think?
I think she was actually
a bad person,
just not a good person to start with. You know, they weren't really zombies, I guess, technically until the end. You know, there's gradual decay that occurs, but you know, I think you're supposed to feel that they're not necessarily acting unlike the way they would normally.
So
although
he was
you know what, everyone does.
She was always a jerk.
Yeah, although they really tried to make him into a more interesting character than
and more
he was
heroic.
In the first one. He was unbelievably pathetic in the first one.
He was almost
embarrassingly
creepster. He was
pathetic.
almost creepster to me.
I liked him as creepster, actually. And that,
I wish he had kept him a creepster too.
Speaking of, you just
what if he had done
you
that?
guys, you just nailed it for me when you said creepster. because that would have worked a lot better in us believing that he would, have sex
Than a
with this
hero.
human being that's falling apart, right?
He should have taken Harper and fucked.
What about the classic Creep Show 2? Remember?
Scalper.
Okay, the
I
one
love that.
with the dock, right, where they're stuck on the dock,
And
Yeah.
the blob thing.
the blob thing, and the
Sure.
boy, is has a thing for the hot girl, and she falls asleep on the dock, and he starts to like feel her up.
Cabin Fever, anyone?
That's Cabin
Yeah.
Fever. That's Cabin
No,
Fever.
No, this
Okay.
is Creep Show.
No, but Creepshow came before Cabin Fever, but it's the exact same idea.
It's the same idea.
Yeah, it's the
Pumping
same
a
thing.
corpse.
But then it's his demise for the sin. He deserved it. Mark,
Right.
what was your favorite Gore of the contracted movies? The set piece.
Yeah, I would say,
In terms of originality or
yeah, I don't know that anything was particularly original. I did like seeing him, cut out the maggots from his body in the second one. The first film, this wasn't necessarily gore, but I actually loved the scene where she's in the mirror trying to make herself up.
Yes.
The way that they shot that, I thought
Yes.
was fantastic.
on.
Like she's actually in that moment believing that she's beautiful.
The fact that she worked in
Yeah,
a
I thought-
restaurant
I thought
freaked
that-
me out.
Yeah.
it's
Why
we're
would she
shadowing
in
the
any
dip.
way
We're
acquiesce?
shadowing the dip.
Why would she? Yeah, exactly. Like her fingernail comes off in the salad plate. But her boss is saying, are you dying? Can't you just come in? That's insane. I mean, what's been going on with her? She's been just emptying blood into the toilet, basically. And yet she has, I guess I'll just come into work, my waitressing job. That seems insane.
Yeah, right?
And that,
every
see,
character
for me, the
down to
first
the
movie, the heightened reality worked better because it was very serious,
Yeah.
and so you could get the idea of her being so in denial that something's wrong.
Yeah.
She is in denial of
totally
it for
is.
a lot of it, that some real shit is going wrong here.
I wish
And-
her stakes had been higher for needing to work and go into waitress versus being asked to work.
Yeah.
She shows
Yeah,
up
right,
to the
exactly.
flower show
Yeah.
to the guy, and he
Like actually believing that this
like
would
it
be
could
valid
work,
in
like that
some
was
way.
actually
Yeah.
gonna work,
It's a fire.
and
We're very excited to see those.
I need to see those. And her flowers are all fucked up anyway. It was so
That was
pathetic. It was such
amazing,
a
yeah.
pathetic moment for me. I think that might be the low point. Speaking of, Alka,
Bitch.
you want to walk us? We're shorter on time, but would you do us the honor of trying to walk us through some of the beats?
Yeah.
Between 1 and 2.
Sure. Do you want to start with one or do you care about? You don't care.
I
about
kind of feel like we should go stick with the beats and do 1 and 2 back to back for each beat, like
Okay.
opening image for.
Oh, got it. Okay.
For
I see what
contracted
you're
and
saying.
then
Okay.
yes.
So the first image in one is the toe tag. There is a dead body, and we see a coroner with a weird tattoo, which kind of it comes back into 2, but we still have no answer for what is going on with that tattoo. It says Abaddon, right? So that
Abaddon is a name for the devil.
oh.
Yeah, it's like another name like Lucifer.
Okay. Thank you. So, so the first image is the toe tag and the coroner with the tattoo, and then the first image in Contracted 2 is Samantha from Contracted 1. She's passed out behind the wheel, and we start with her becoming a zombie.
Well, before we go to that, what's the closing image of Contracted? The first one, does it match the opening image?
Yeah. Oh no, it doesn't, because the final image is she attacks her mother.
Yeah, they're just sort of in the street, right?
Yeah.
And I think they went with that because it was a really kind of abrupt ending to the movie, and it was shocking, I think, which was great. but the opening and closing images did not match thematically. But if you change the opening image for contracted from the first image, which was the toe tag, and you say what happened after that, what was the opening image for our protagonist in contracted? Thematically, we start off with Samantha. When we first meet Samantha, what is she doing?
You're saying in the second one?
Is she on the phone?
one.
She's
Oh,
trying
the
to
first
get
one?
on the phone with her girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in the car, right? We're looking at her through her side view mirror.
Yeah. So she's trying to get a hold of the girlfriend to bring her to this party at Alice's house.
Right.
Right, and she won't get that call back. So, is there something about her personality and being like desperate for this girlfriend that got, and I don't know, is that her flaw? Does that speak to her flaw at all?
I think the whole relationship with her girlfriend is like it's underdeveloped. We don't know why they broke up, right? Or why they can't be together. It's like, I think Nikki just changed her mind, but is that the strongest choice you could make as a writer? I don't think so. I think, there's probably something to do there, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah. And so then you went over to opening and closing image for phase 2?
For phase 2, we open with Samantha passed out behind the wheel, and then the final image is the doctor. It actually comes in the end credits. I actually walked out of the room, and then I realized, it's coming back in. They're back, and so I turned back around, and it is the doctor who sees Samantha in the first film, and who's kind of unhelpful. The unhelpful bald doctor?
Yeah.
So it's him, and he's got the Abaddon tattoo, only now he's taking care of BJ. Did anyone see that?
I missed it. I actually turned it off when the credits started.
It was in the middle of the credits.
That's not a closing image. That's a post credit sequence, right? So that's like a teaser for the next movie, right?
Okay, I buy that.
The Abaddon, I saw the Abaddon at the beginning of both. At the beginning of the first one, he was banging a corpse, like Aftermath, and then at the beginning of the other one, when he was taking the lead from one's breastplate off and exposing the maggots. I saw the tattoo. I thought that was both times you see that tattoo at the beginning.
Right.
What do we know about this guy from the mythology of these two movies?
Isn't BJ Abaddon? Or I'm confused now. I was under the thought that was the same character.
Yeah, I was as well.
I think
so. He was the mortician.
Yeah,
I think so.
And that's how he had access to the hospital so easy.
We see that also when he picks Riley up at the bar. Remember, he slips him some cash, and then takes him away. We see the tattoo on his hand.
So basically, the first one's setting up that he's boinking some other corpse, and that's his thing. And then the second one that I'm forgetting the.
I don't even know how the corpse played into it, other than it's like, there's starting to be a body count, and this was like an origin story for this zombie apocalypse, right?
That's what I took it as. That was the inception of all of this.
I took it totally different, though. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that as the start of it, that the disease came from that initial act. That's what I...
No, I didn't... I just couldn't make head or tails of what happened with that corpse in the beginning, or what power anyone was... I feel like it will tie into why is BJ alive,
Alka, you brought up something that I think we should probably tap on right now, which is It Follows. And the whole STD and allergens and bacteria and virus relation.
Yeah. But, so go for it.
No, you were totally 100% right, because another opening image I saw on the first one were the flowers, which I felt like was a
Yeah.
metaphor not
Yep,
only for her
that's
but
right.
for allergens
In the title sequence.
and bacteria, and a lot of the way you spread different diseases comes through, monkeys or plants or pollen. So I felt like there was a kind of a bigger overarching kind of symbolism with the plants. And then the virus was the first thing. Once we get past the initial her chomping on her mom and two, the first thing we hit is Riley trying to get a HIV test. And again, we're going back to the whole idea of virus and bacteria and do I have this STD, or what is this that I might have? Which is, it follows again, sexually transmitted demon, as we used to say.
We got, Alka, do we have a theme stated for these films?
Got me. I really, I feel like there's so much that's not developed there. I mean, it might have been stated, but I just...
Christina, did you have one?
With a theme stated for me, for one, was bad decisions will make you a zombie. I don't know. It seemed like bad. All these were based on bad calls of intimacy.
Yeah.
Like who to hug. It almost is like it used to be like when you see the Friday the 13th. The Friday the 13th comes from girls and boys when you go to summer camp. Don't do anything lewd or awful, or a guy will come and chop you up. So it's like, oh, girls and boys now, don't do anything awful, even with a condom, you'll become a ghoul. That's seriously, this whole year feels like it's the sexual awareness horror movie year.
And I felt like there was so much, in that opening party of Contracted One, that the dialogue was so awkward and so stilted that I was just so hung up on that.
It did not
feel like a party.
It felt like when you guys mentioned Millennials earlier, it felt like millennial dialogue, trying to reproduce the awkwardness that high school is like today or college is like today. And I thought that was charming, actually, because it felt like young people and how afraid they are of awkwardness, of how being thought of as someone who can't make the situation move forward is terrible. I thought it was a little stilted, but I also thought it was, I don't know, I was charmed by it.
Yeah, if it had been mannered throughout, if there was something intentional,
it wasn't. Yeah,
it was.
wasn't.
It was not. Yeah. It was not. It was.
Yeah, I don't think it was intentional. Yeah.
All right, so set up for the two movies.
We have a party without Nikki for the first one. So, Samantha's just trying to get through that. And she is a person who is holding on to a relationship that's on its way out. And she's at this party. And the most interesting thing that happens there is the dealer guy asks her if she needs a bump. And she says no. And the way she says it, it's there's a history there. But
like they used to. And that comes out later. We do find that she was either in rehab or she had an issue that her parents had to take care of.
Right, which is her mother's problem with her. Her mother's problem is this constant suspicion that she is off the wagon. So, and I think then you also realize in this setup that everybody wants Samantha. There's Riley in the corner there. There's BJ who's watching her as a shadowy figure, and there's Alice who, I think we don't realize. At least I didn't realize that she wanted her too. But it comes to pass that Alice wants her too.
Everybody wants her except the girl she wants.
Yes.
Right?
Wait, you know what? The funniest thing is kind of I was just thinking about Saw, and this. I feel like maybe isn't as clearly stated, but Saw killed people that deserved it. And if you notice with BJ, in one, he takes out Samantha, who's the most jerk character of these people. And then in two, you remember how he has hookers. And we don't really allude to they don't show how many other people he kills, but just by doing the hooker, it kind of shows that and the way he talks righteously, that he's targeting mean people. Because it's not like of all the people he could have had at that party with insecurities, he went after...
The most fascinating thing you guys have said, I didn't pick up on Samantha being such a shitty person in the first movie.
She wasn't cool.
I didn't either.
I wouldn't want her as a friend.
Well,
yeah, me neither.
But now that you mention it, I mean, she's I think she's just self-involved
And
which
confused.
goes back to the millennial thing, like a self-involved person.
Yeah.
Someone who's really interested in the things she wants to do, obsessing about a girl who doesn't like her, her flower projects not really working, feeding, living in a home or living off her mom's like goodwill. I think that felt very millennial punishment kind of scenario, metaphor.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that's,
don't know how I
going
feel about
back
millennials
to,
now.
Christina, going back to It Follows, one of the things that really struck me is that in this story, these people are in their 20s or whatever, and they're like, Samantha's living with her mother, right?
Yep.
And then there's this younger crowd of It Follows who are completely unsupervised. We know that they're
true.
living there, but
Very
they are not visible.
You don't really
Those.
see parents except for that one mother.
Because they're privileged, right? And It Follows.
Well, here's the thing, and It Follows, I kind of had an easier time wrapping my head around liking the protagonist.
Yeah, she was much more
Absolutely.
likable, but I think It Follows also said something about the place. The place. You talk about place being a character, and this place was absolutely blank. It was a blank slate.
I don't know where it was. It was shot.
It could have been
shot
anywhere.
Suburb of Detroit.
California.
Yeah.
Detroit,
Yeah.
actually, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about the contract. It was.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Thought
I
you
mean,
were talking about
it
Follows.
felt very, like those ghosts in It Follows I felt like this is, Detroit's past. This is,
Yeah.
Detroit is full of ghosts, and what a beautiful way to, bring them out. But I
Right.
think like here, you're kind of, it's like this blank canvas it's unsettling in its own way that you don't know. But
Well, actually, there's one scene where she's coming out of the restaurant where you see Santa Monica Boulevard. It's L.A.
It
Oh.
feels.
I don't know if they
like
were trying to give that away, but
LA
it was.
slash maybe shot in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Alka, do you have a setup for Contracted Phase 2?
sure. So Riley, we begin with Riley and the doctor, who's also his brother-in-law, right? And he gives him
Interesting new connection they just decided to add, right?
yeah, and he tells him, I want everything. I want the whole gamut of tests, but he doesn't tell him why or who or how. And as soon as he leaves the room, he starts operating on himself, which is this weird thing. Like he feels his back, and there's one of Samantha's nails in there, and he pulls it out
Right.
with some kind of surgical implement that's just lying around, as they do in doctors' offices.
Right.
And then he's like questioned by this detective who's like from Northern England or Scotland, and she's like obsessed with giving him tea. And she asked him like 10 times, do you want tea? And he's like, I just wanted him to say, no, I do not want the tea. Because it was crazy.
But first of all, you gotta love a sequel that picks up right where the previous one left off.
Yeah, but I hated those flashbacks.
I love it when you.
I hated that we were seeing everything again. Like, just drop us in there. We've all seen zombie films. We've all kind of, Well,
what part did we have to see again?
we didn't need to see anything again, if you ask me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I needed to I liked it coming back to the mom and the daughter, and I also like the flashback. I'm sorry, guys, of the KY worms to remind me how it came about. A jog of the memory.
It's just such a great shot.
Okay,
You want to bring it back
You
if you can.
do.
Yeah, I was okay
understand.
with that. I didn't like the quick little flash montage they did right before Riley gets shot at the end, because that seemed very weirdly epic,
what
like
did
a
they
character that we're really right before the detective shoots him in the head. We have this quick flood of images of him in his period of innocence, him looking.
When
you
he
know,
was just a
wi- wi-
healthy stalker. He was just a healthy
like,
creep.
Like we're supposed to have been, like we've known this guy our whole lives. You know, we're so invested in this
He's
that
not
he's gonna
Orville.
no,
Riley.
don't shoot this guy. I love this. You know, like what are they trying to do? We didn't need that at all. I was not that invested in him that I needed a montage of his life.
Yes, agreed.
But yeah, I was okay with starting the film with just that tiny little bit from the end of the
Yeah,
film.
so the detective is
it leads
questioning him.
nicely into the autopsy with the cutting into the breastplate, seeing
Which
the
is a
knives.
great.
Yeah, I
Right.
thought that was great. So yeah, I didn't have an issue with that.
Right.
Alka,
The
catalysts? Can we do
inciting
catalysts?
incident. Okay, this
Yeah.
is the weird thing. And you want me to do it for contracted one? Contracted 2 is the one where it gets weird. But
We'll do one
contracted
and then
one
do 2.
is she has sex with BJ,
The
right?
Yeah.
So we, she's at the party. She doesn't really want to be at the party. She gets drunk with Alice, and boom, she's in the car with BJ, and she doesn't really know. I feel like it was a rape, though. You know, we hear her saying no.
And stop.
Yeah,
I think we should
and there's
stop.
like
I
the
think we
hand
should stop.
on the glass. It was like, oh.
And that tweaked me too, because why? And that's why I called Riley a creepster, because if I saw a hand on there,
Yeah.
as a friend, I would have knocked.
Well, he says
everything
that.
cool?
I mean, when he's with Harper, he says that guy raped her, and I did nothing about it. Right?
Yeah.
So
See, that's
he
why he's-
realizes, and
I
so
don't
he's
know
like
why
a horrible
he's getting
person.
hero treatment in 2, 'cause I think
Exactly.
he's a jerk.
He is a worse
But
person. than
you said they're not. The
Samantha.
But they
protagonists
play
in
him-
these
but they play
movies
him
are
like
not
a hero.
heroes. They're shitty
They
people.
totally play him that way.
Yeah,
They're
I mean,
shitty
he's
people
just
and
spineless.
bad things happening to shitty people. That's
Yeah, but the
sort of-
dialogue keeps making him seem like, I've got to end this. I've got to
Yeah.
stop this. I've got to be a hero.
Right.
But he's
And-
not.
and-
He's a creepster.
And that
is
only happens
germy.
because he's lucky enough to be taken to the hospital because he has no more strength to carry on, and the killer just randomly follows him there and puts himself
Whatever.
in danger. You know, so
Yeah.
he's able.
I feel
to
like that's the
fulfill his-
catalyst for 2.
I did
I
think
agree.
I feel like the,
Okay, go
the
for
killer
it.
busting him.
The killer said
the
leaving
beginning
that
of
note.
the cat and mouse with those
Yes,
two. was-
yes, exactly. And it's very strange because you don't realize, like, at first I had to rewind and see what was on that windshield. But when he comes out of that detective interrogation, right, where she's asking him, and again, he doesn't tell her anything at this point.
At that point.
He tells her nothing. He's like, oh, we were friends. We were all friends. I didn't know
Yeah.
this person was dead. Oh, I'm surprised. And see you later, you know? And then he goes to his car, and there's a note that says Big Mouth on it.
Yeah.
Big
How
mouth.
would they even know? Yeah, okay, he maybe has a hospital connection, but how would he know that? And then how would he be tracking to know that he even got an arm? Like, why is he tracking Riley?
Why?
would he?
Exactly. Why?
It makes no sense.
Why? When he's happy to kill anyone in any one of these women in any which way, why is
Yeah,
Riley
why is
the
he-
like?
why is he creeping
the,
on
you know,
him? Totally agree.
Yeah. I was
They,
like,
they
who's?
wanted to set up
I
a
didn't
chase,
get.
a cat and mouse, but it didn't connect properly at all.
Yeah.
But they would have
Well, I
had no
think what they
substance to
were-
carry the second act if they didn't have some type of something going on.
Right.
Right.
And they were expanding the scope of this film, right? So Contracted one was very much about Samantha and her,
Right.
you know, the denigration, the disintegration, whatever, of her body, you know? And then Contracted 2 is like, we open it up to this world around Samantha, right? Though Samantha is gone. And Riley takes that main storyline, but there's also like BJ and the detective and
Yeah, Contracted 1 is very focused
Yeah.
horror movie, which is
Yeah.
great. I like
What-
that, and it keeps us with her during the deterioration of her body. It makes the thing a lot more, gives it more gravitas. So
Wait, did everyone see the trailer for 2 before you saw it?
no,
No.
I saw the trailer and I was so excited, and that's why I even brought it up to you, David,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought that 2 was going to be the story about the hunt for BJ. I thought it was totally centered.
It was
on
set up
finding
like that.
Patient Zero.
Yeah.
And it was not about Patient Zero at all. So I was like, what? I totally thought that's because I think there was Cabin Fever 2 is called Patient Zero, and a lot of times with viral things they make the sequels about finding who the original,
Right.
you know, and that's the way they set the trailer up. So I was expecting this like cat and mouse to find, and whoever it was, the detective going after Patient Zero.
Right.
But it became the Riley story, the weird Riley story. And that's not how they pitched it.
Right.
Ugh.
Alka, do we have any debate? Did you note debate?
I felt like in one there was, I don't remember the debate.
There was some convo about.
I call it sick versus not sick. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they kept trying to fix it in the first one or cover it up.
Yeah, she was like, it's before. It takes her a while to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's kind of just
And that's
trying
the debate.
to.
I'm not sick, or yeah.
Yeah,
So it was,
I would agree with that. She was just trying to, forget that this ever happened and go forward with her usual anxieties.
Right.
And then, and the other, in Contracted 2, the debate really is about him talking to the detective, I think.
See, I totally got it. I got it with the two killers, BJ and Riley. Like, who really is a bad guy here? Because Riley was kissing up every woman around him and giving every single woman the cooties. Meanwhile, BJ was carrying bombs. I kept feeling like the debate was who really is the protagonist and antagonist here. Because who has a higher body count at the end of this, if you really look at it.
Yeah. So that's great. So then what's our break into twos?
The break in the two in
can I
Contracted
say
1.
this?
Oh, yeah, sure.
This is super special.
chime
this
in,
is the one
chime
I was
in.
chomping on.
Chime in.
I think the break in the two was symbolically both of them with the bloody toilets.
Oh,
Yes.
And
the bloody toilet comes back.
both
Yeah,
have bloody toilets
I-
where they have to admit that they have something really bad.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
and that you make a great point, because it's like now you're in trouble, and the journey begins in those moments, because you can no longer ignore it.
Right.
Because of all
the
the other
grossest.
symptoms you could have,
You're right.
a blood-filled toilet is it's this irrational fear. You know, that's the worst thing you could think of.
Yeah,
That's so good.
that was a really good call.
What a great break into two. Yeah, because the journey begins. You now must deal with what's going on,
Yeah.
which is an interesting. That's amazing. That's amazing.
The fact that we're saying bloody toilet is amazing.
Well, that's what this podcast and this series is all about. So fun and games. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of symptoms. A lot of
the slow deterioration.
yes, and
of
the ringing and
the
her
bodies.
ear. She sees the
Yeah.
doctor.
That was annoying to me. The ear ringing was something that didn't seem to work with the rest of the body horror. That seems I don't know. I just hate when they do the ringing ear thing. It's so easy, you know. They have such better creature effects, going on. What about in phase 2?
The fun and games.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have. Oh, this was so gross. He's Riley is a social worker, and somebody comes in with a rash. I was like
Creepy girl.
very troubled by this.
Yeah.
I was very troubled about Debbie with the rash. Oh my god. That
Debbie with the has a rash.
I'm starting a band called Debbie with a Rash.
But you all know you are visualizing it right now. If you've seen this movie, you know it's in
It was
you.
like a
It's
bad version of Precious. Ugh.
Ugh.
Was that
With no
did that
Mariah Carey.
Mark, did that move you?
Wait, did anyone catch My Fun and Games was a total homage to the Book of Mormons with Grandma and the two boys? Do you guys remember when the two Mormon boys
Yes.
roll up to Grandma's house?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, there's so much other things going on in Contracted Phase 2 besides the horror.
Right.
And it was this silliness.
Yeah, and I think I think probably the best, like, the most suspenseful scene happens in this section in Contracted 2. This is the scene in the bar where Riley's gone out with Harper, and he starts to get those weird text messages, and she's telling him the joke.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
that was a
that's
really
nice.
beautifully written scene. I was like, that is the best thing in both of these movies. You know, and she's
That's cute.
yeah, it was like a really lovely scene.
You start
and he's
to
getting
actually
these,
care
like,
about a character? Is that why you're
I
saying?
actually liked Harper.
Oh,
I felt
yeah.
bad for
Yeah, I did
Harper.
too. I
I
did
wanted
too.
her
Poor
to punch him
Harper.
or do something
I
to
know.
him.
She
Poor
was
Harper.
definitely the
She was
most
so
likable
nice to the
character,
end.
I think.
And if I didn't even get any yum yum and I got your junk, I would be so mad.
I know, but she was a saint. She was a
mad.
caretaker. She was a nurturer. She can't be mad.
She died before him. So not fair.
And she gets one of the other best lines, which is, I think I just forgot to take out my contacts.
Oh, that was an amazing Gore scene.
I
That
was
was
like,
fantastic.
oh
That
my
was an
God.
amazing Gore scene.
That was good Gore. That was impressive.
Yes,
Yeah,
agreed.
the initial part of it at least. But
Yeah.
I wanted to see more stuff attached to the eye, but yeah.
Yeah, but so I think that's the fun and games
That
for
might be my
2, where we
favorite
see,
one.
the Alice's memorial, and then
Oh, I hated the sister. I'm going to dedicate my book to her and take the whole moment of my friend dying right now. And
for
my friend's gonna
myself,
sing a song.
for myself,
Ugh.
which the song is hilarious. Come on,
I wanted to
the
punch
song
her.
was so
Ugh.
hilarious.
I didn't
I'm
know the
glad
song.
she had the cheesy dip.
I didn't know the song. Did you guys recognize the song?
No.
No,
It was
I
just-
think it was just a song about Alice, and it was like it was
You're
weird.
making it sound like a classic.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
the
a
most popular
weird
song.
song, and it came through the credits again. You know.
I can't.
Midpoints?
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
The midpoint in number 1 was the maggot coming out of the
Out of the what?
hoo-ha.
Really?
Yeah, it was the tooth loss. There's a red eye. I mean, like, she's full of symptoms, but I think the maggot
okay, the
dropping.
first maggot. The first
first maggot.
And she
maggot.
doesn't see it, right? She
No.
doesn't see it. We see it.
We see it. Yes, and we
Yeah,
all
And
we
I'm
all
going to revise
clench
my
up.
answer from earlier. That I think is the most disgusting scene.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
The single lone,
Over
the
the
lone
eyeball,
maggot
over the
on the
contact
bathroom
lens.
floor
Yeah. Yep. Just seeing the maggot
drop.
I think
the lone
was,
maggot,
That was that takes the cake. I think. Yeah.
because we know
Yum.
the
Yeah. Really,
maggot-
really simple and unbelievably disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
disturbing.
See,
right?
that's
That
where
you see,
one
that goes
has
past.
these
That
little
goes
moments
towards
that are
psychological. That goes a lot more towards psychological than gore, right?
Yes.
Right. And then in Contracted 2, the midpoint is, okay, every time this detective goes into any house, there are no lights, and she needs a flashlight. But the first house she goes
That's so
into,
seven. I love it.
Yeah.
the
that's
first house
totally
she
what they're
goes
doing.
into is Creepy BJ's house, where on the wall he's written, "I am the end." And I think that is the midpoint, and there's a woman hanging. There's a zombie woman who is kept
Right.
captive, which is really gross and so disturbing. But not as disturbing as seeing that he's been recording tapes. Like, why is he recording on tape, guys?
And
Yeah.
himself.
But why on tape? Like, some technology here. You know what I mean? Like, tape?
Oh,
Are they
Of
trying
all
to do
the- like,
retro?
it's
classic. It's classic, man.
That's really funny.
Oh
yeah.
my God! Why
It would have
the
been cool
tapes?
if everything in his house were like from the 50s.
But it's
Nothing.
not. It's just like a dungeon.
Nothing
With-
had been upgraded. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that's
Odd
the
choice.
midpoint. That's
How
the
many spooky
midpoint.
houses with basements, though?
Yeah, but she gets attacked by the zombie also here, and the detective gets attacked, and she gets some fluid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she, like everyone else, is in denial about it as well. You know, every single character who's infected, I guess other than Harper, Oh no, even Harper denies it initially. She's clearly sick. Everyone seems to deny that they're actually ill.
That's what's great about
if I was
this.
her teacher and she had come into my classroom looking like that, I would have been like,
Yeah,
out.
yeah. She's like, no, I'm fine. I
She
just,
was all veiny
my
and
contacts.
gray.
Yeah.
I, that's a real convention of these movies. This idea that your body is like degrading, and does that have something to do with when we're sick and we don't want to go to the doctor, we don't want to admit it. You don't. It's people who are afraid to go to the doctor because they don't want to hear the bad news that they already know.
Right.
I think they're just such strangers to their own bodies here. You know what I mean? Also, because of the way that they don't know how to relate to the people in their lives. They're just, I think the denial is very plausible because it's like they're just removed. And I think all the anxiety that's related to their bodies is made manifest by this denial.
That's deep.
Talk about body horror. I was just thinking when we talked about doctors and having there be a doctor in each movie. Does anybody remember the movie Teeth?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up earlier. Yeah.
Well, what's the parallel?
Because it's the it's the polar opposite of becoming one with your body horror and denying your body horror. Contract 1, 2, and a lot of movies deny their body horror, but in Teeth, she began to embrace it.
Right.
After being horrified by it too, like everyone else, she took it.
Yeah.
She took it on.
The sexual politics in Teeth that was a lot clearer.
So
I thought
good.
Every single male character was a predator, every single one. I guess except for her father, but it's not quite as clear and Contracted. But I love Teeth.
I feel like Contracted wanted to be a Teeth. And Teeth was
possibly
beautifully shot. It was art house. It was cute. It was kitschy. It had that kind of like young romance or young coming of age in a creepster way.
Right.
But it was done. The story was done well.
Yeah, I agree.
The pacing was done well.
Alka, we're running out of time. Can you run us through the bad guys closing the last few beats for both movies?
Sure. So in one, it's that the mother is kind of catching on that something is wrong, and so there's some scenes with the water being really hot and scalding her, but she doesn't feel it. Then there's hair loss, and I think
that was pretty horrible. The hair loss on a woman is always scary.
Yeah, there's also like the pressure of her job there, because this is where her boss comes in and she falls apart on the job, and it's like she's slowly just like losing her shit. And
she's like it's pink eye.
Yeah. Yeah, and he sends her back out there until the replacement comes as well.
The guy's like,
when you see someone who looks like that, you don't send them back out to serve food.
Right.
That is incredibly poor judgment.
Or have them in your class.
That's not good judgment.
Or even let them come to work.
You're not going to keep your A rating at your restaurant.
Exactly.
That way.
Yeah. So that's on one, and then on two we have again with BJ. BJ says to they're at the bar, and Riley's been there with Harper in that lovely scene, but then they intercut it with the detective in the house, and then boom, we're back to the bar where BJ drugs Riley and takes him out and tells him, I'm watching you and we're going to be seeing each other soon. Right?
So stupid.
And why? Why?
Just kill him. Kill him.
Of all the people, you want to hang out with Riley?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
did anyone
he's
think
not
that was going to
worthy.
be like a play of time, a time play, whereas then when you cut to the detective, like Riley was going to be in the house drugged? I thought that was going to be a play of timeline. I totally did. And when it wasn't, I was just lost.
Yeah, I didn't know what he was going to do with him, but I just thought, like, why is he even interested in him? So that was our bad guys closing in. And also, this is the section where I feel like the feds come in and deal with the detective who
It's a matter of national security.
this guy is with the Chemical Biological Defense Department in Homeland Security, and these people have been getting a tape a day from this dude, and now they're worried. And I was like, really? It's just a tape a day that gets you, and there's like, why is he spreading the disease? No, he is the disease, right? He is the disease, and for some inexplicable reason, we need him alive. I have no idea why. Why do they need him alive? Why is he interested in Riley? I mean, this was like confusion. The bad guys close in Contracted 2 is like mayhem.
It was so weird because any other movie, Outbreak or anything, CDC would just grab him in 2 seconds. Even Monsters Inc. Like, they would just grab that guy, BJ. But here it's like, we've been tracking him for 15 years, and maybe he's sending 2 letters a day now, so let's find him.
And we want him alive.
That says that initial sex with the dead body wasn't the patient 0, right? It says there's a bigger history for BJ.
Right.
It could still be him. They could have just kind of started whittling. I have no clue.
They expanded. It's interesting. They expanded the mythology in Contracted Phase 2, but by breaking several logical ideas that were set by the first one. If you're gonna get creative and extend the mythology, you really need to do a better job. But who knew that there was going to be a Contracted Phase 2, right? Alka, would you just quickly do All Is Lost and break into 3 for these guys out? Because I want to do our summary remarks.
I think our Dark Night of the Soul, All Is Lost, is in Contracted 1. She goes back to her dealer, so she's using again. And then, what else happens? The doctor can't help her. We find out the doctor can't help her. She's out of the flower show, and even the social worker or doctor that the mother brings in, like when he sees her, he like runs. I don't. Yeah. So that's her Dark Night of the Soul in 1, and then in 2, there's the self-surgery in the gas station bathroom for Riley, and he gets Harper, who's infected also, and who, like, this guy tries to help her because and he's a classmate of Harper's, and Harper throws up on him.
Don't help your friends, boys and girls.
Which was delightful.
Die.
Yeah.
So
no good deed goes unpunished. And and then the detective finds Grandma and the Mormons in the dark house. Right? They're full on zombies. And
love it.
Poor Harper loses her eye. Right?
Poor Harper.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the All Is Lost?
I think so. I think that, he calls his sister and he says, I'm just calling to say I love you very much. I'm out of here.
And then the third acts for both are
when Samantha goes and kills Nikki, and she right, because Nikki's not interested. And see, here's where the sexual confusion is like full on, raging out of control, climaxing, because Nikki tells her she's not interested in her because she fucked a man, right?
Yeah.
And Alice told her, and then boom, so that's what pushes Samantha over the edge, and she kills Nikki, right? So then in Contracted 2, this is where they're at the drug dealers buying guns, right? Because he wants to find BJ and hunt him down. And they're busted there, right? They, I think that they're just found and then they're taken to the hospital and quarantined. And everybody knows, knows he's a zombie.
And the post-credit sequence, I didn't see it either in Contracted Phase 2. Will you tell us what it tells us about a possible sequel? for
yeah.
a contracted
Yep.
part 3?
Sure. We're not going to do finales, David. We're just like going to leave those out. We're just going to...
No, you can drop them in, please.
Yeah. Well, for one, it is, Samantha goes to Alex and she actually kisses her and then kills her. Then she has sex with Riley, kills him, basically, but not right away because he's going to be around for Contracted too. And she puts Alice in the tub and she drives off, right? And then she's again on the phone with her mother, and her mother's like, I'll be there, just come home, blah, blah, blah. And she passes out. And this is where the transformation becomes complete. When she gets out of the car, she's a zombie, and that's where we start Contracted 2. The final image of Contracted 1 is she attacks her mother. And then in Contracted 2, we have BJ is the central figure in this finale. And so Riley's in the hospital. BJ shows up wearing a bomb.
Whatever.
I mean, you are a weapon. You are the disease. You are the end. Why do you need a bomb?
Yeah. So you need a bomb.
Why do you need this bomb? And then he's got a gun. He's got a machine gun too.
Right.
It's like,
I think.
And this is where we get into Sharknado territory.
Yeah, exactly.
this is a little overkill and nonsensical, but and why does he care about Riley? We still don't know.
Yeah.
Why does he give a crap? Riley's on his deathbed.
Enough to put himself in danger.
Yeah.
To show up there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and he's gonna be a zombie anyway, so he won't testify. What's going on?
Yeah. He's gonna be a zombie in a second.
Yeah, he's out. But this guy's there. He's the end. He's got a bomb. He's got a gun. And the detective is there and now just starting to exhibit symptoms of her own because, as we know, at the midpoint, she killed somebody who dripped
the zombie chick in the basement.
Zombie chick in the basement. She had her blood, and then boom, like everybody's like, "Oh, the scanner's going crazy. We're leaving you here." She's like, "That's cool. That's fine." And then she's left alone to protect Riley, and BJ's there. And of course, BJ wants to kill her, but not before he doesn't have. He wants to make a speech first. So.
Kevin Spacey, the end of 7.
What is up? This is like the most ineffectual antagonist. This is the most ineffectual antagonist we've seen in a long time. And he's about to kill the detective when Riley shows up from the back. We think Riley has been killed by this guy, by BJ. But then Riley defibrillates him from the back and pukes on him. And the detective just kind of is curled up in a ball crying. But then...
When did she wuss out? She went from, like, Glasgow's greatest to, like...
I know.
Take it in the leg and keep moving. You're supposed to be like a Rambo chick.
Yeah,
dude,
and when she...
That likes tea. What's going on?
Yeah, it's really so disappointing. And then she's, like... All of a sudden, Riley turns on her because he remembers, I am not here to save. I'm here to kill. I'm a zombie. So he goes...
No, I thought he gave her the glory look, like, do it. Kill me. I'm a zombie.
Oh, that's too noble. Look. Really? No. No, he was just like, I think you look kind of yummy. And he was going to, he was going forward. Contacts. Yeah, he was moving forward. And so she saw him as his innocent self in a very unnecessary flashback sequence and... kills him. Right?
I feel like it's a let's have a drink moment. That is the ending of Contract 2 was 100% let's have a drink, where you sit down with the writer and director and say, let's have a drink. What the fuck were you thinking? And then this is you didn't see that one thing? You see the pin that she was holding? That explains everything. And that's what you need. No one's gonna understand. You need somebody
to But then we end with Brenda, the sister of Riley.
Yeah. Jerk. Yeah.
Who
Jerk
is
zombie sister-in-law.
She's a zombie, but her husband, no.
Right.
And the baby's kicking.
The baby, I think that baby is definitely, the way that baby's kicking, that's a zombie baby.
We need the baby to come out just like Dawn of the Dead with like green eyes.
Yeah, definitely. Home birth that
these
zombie baby.
These movies went through such such a trials and tribulations to not be zombie movies, and now we're talking about them like they're zombie movies because I don't think they deserve to fall into zombie camp.
They kind of do. And it is IFC Midnight. Like, they kind of do. They'll be cult classics in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sequence,
the
end
post-credit sequence.
Yes, it's bizarro. Like, it comes in like after the editors, and I want to.
Wait, was there one on Contract 2? Or Contracted 2?
Yeah, after the credit sequence starts, and I was leaving the room, and I turned around because I heard dialogue going, and I thought, oh, a blooper reel, I was like, did I just totally get this movie wrong? Because it was like a big, arch, funny comedy, and no, it was the doctor from Contracted 1, who is now overseeing the care of BJ, who is quite injured, though not as injured as he would be if he had used the bomb that was strapped to him. I was like, why is anyone taking care of this guy? He was going in with a bomb.
And usually, don't they have those wired that if you try to tamper with it, they pop?
But he was there, and he had an oxygen mask on, or maybe it looked like a scuba mask. I'm going to just go ahead and say that. It was a scuba mask. I don't know why, but it was there.
Budget.
Trust
it's
me.
An independent movie. Suspend your disbelief.
They totally took a scuba mask.
For some reason, and he's
okay. I gotta watch the end of the movie now.
It's like he's in these on a gurney with these plastic curtains that are like, if you've ever had worked in an industrial kitchen, like those plastic, like that kind of a curtain. So I don't know what.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's it. And he was like, "You're gonna be better."
Thank you, Alka.
That would have changed everything if I had seen that. I laughed, I cried. Now I want to see it twice more. It was better than Cats.
It was better than Cats. Thank you for doing all the beats for us, Alka. I want to do a quick. Let's round up. Final thoughts on Contracted, the series Contracted, and are you looking forward to Contracted Phase 3? Christina, would you mind starting us off?
What?
What did you think of the movies? What did you think of the series, and how is it?
I liked it.
Stand in the hall of indie horror, low budget IFC Midnight.
You know what? It is what it is. I do like the fact that even though we said the word zombie too many times on this podcast, they didn't. I stand by that. I feel like it was a choppy narrative in 2, but they tried to keep it going. Same thing happened with Rec. I'm talking the Spanish versions of Rec, where it was a solid 1, a choppy 2. Their 3 came back very strong, with just like Evil Dead, so I'm hoping 3 comes back super strong. And then, I have faith. I would totally see Contracted 3, expect more comedy, and not be disappointed. I'm cool with it. I like it.
And more variations on the maggots.
Get the rules together, and don't try to be 7. Just give us a straight out good patient 0, or keep with BJ. Let's do what you were planning to. You gave me a trailer of the story of Person 0. Just stick to BJ and put him a little bit more in the shadows and make him more interesting.
That's really what the trailer. Yeah, that's what we wanted to know. Is where did it all come from? Yeah.
Yep.
Mark.
Yeah. I would not see the third one. I think I'll be quite all right without that. I liked the choice in the first one to keep BJ in the shadows, keep him in soft focus. I like not knowing much about him. Now that they've revealed him, I don't really care about where it goes from here, honestly.
Good point.
I feel that I've seen all that I need to see.
But there's more to be done with maggots. There's more.
Yeah.
I think there's more to.
Oh. Yeah. Can we say it on air? They've come out of hoo-has, but they haven't come out of other orifices.
We did not.
That's
we
true.
did not get
We
that
have
yet. Where's
not gone to
the
a
gay
gay bar.
contract? Where's the gay
Ah.
contracted? Yeah. Awesome.
That
this
is
is gonna
true.
go dark. Sorry.
That's yeah, quite the kidney stone.
Alka.
I don't know that I'd be back for Contracted 3. I think
Come on.
I know. I think, Contracted 1 I kind of liked. I thought it was in the tradition of better movies, though it wasn't particularly great. Like I said, I thought it reminded me of Repulsion. It reminded me of Cat People. It reminded me of Carrie. And these are all films that I've loved. And I think, opening the scope up in the second one, I thought there was more to be done. I thought you could really get at, like the fears of society. I think like we live in a crazy time. There's plenty to be anxious about. There's war, disease, and our loss of humanity. What technology
Identity
is
theft.
doing. There's so much to be, excavated, but I just don't feel like they're up to it. I feel like this is the right vehicle, but it's like all the wrong people have come
It's too
together.
light. It's too light fare, really. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
but it's a
with you.
good
It was-
idea. And I think, getting into it the way they do, like pulling one thread out, like the Riley character, and exploring him as a, like the guide for the second and increasing scope. I mean, that's quite an interesting form to explore. And then doing that again, I think it could be good, but I don't trust them. I don't trust these filmmakers.
I'm with you.
I liked the Contracted 1 approach where we're following one person while she deteriorates and is in denial of it. And I don't particularly like that she decided to go psycho about it later. I would have liked her just to continue to be denying it throughout. But I also like that it was a smaller scope. We're just following her. I love the idea that you guys hit on that I didn't really feel when I watched these movies, but the idea that these characters were kind of not likable, that they were kind of jerks and they deserved it. I like the idea of horror about following people who deserve it. Get us to not like a person and then have them, and watch them deteriorate and like have the waits, I hope the worst things in life happen to you kind of thing, so I think I like that because normally it's like, oh, the innocent people, the innocent girl or boy, bad things happen to them. I know what you did last summer.
Right.
I like it's more like revengey. It's more, I don't know. Yeah, just, take pot shots at the millennials. I love that. I think, I don't know. I could see Phase 3 if they really step it up a notch. They take it to another level.
Right.
But the rules thing did bother me, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Alka, Mark, if it was total like over the top, would you do it?
If it was total over the like Sharknado, you mean?
Yeah.
Wait,
Sorry.
what did you? Would I see it?
Would you do? Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Given enough weed.
But you need, but you need more horror set pieces. You need more of this dark stuff. More, I mean, like the stuff we love, the blood in the toilets and the maggots, and we need a new thing. We need take it one step further.
Yeah.
And then we'll be happy campers.
Yeah, I think, the most exciting thing about zombie movies is that, like, world building that happens after, how people come together, how they survive. But, I mean, we've seen it, right?
I don't want to see a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
I like this bad stuff happening to one person who deserves it. Like,
Oh wow.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, but they
Sure.
changed the scope on you. So now it's like, I don't think it's going to ever be about one person again. I mean, that's just
No.
my feeling. It's like, I thought it was strongest too in Contracted One, where we just
Yeah.
dealt with her, and it was absolutely oppressive to deal with just her and her body, you know, for the course of the film. But I think when you get into two, and there's so much like, there were so many holes in the plot and so many, you know, unmotivated actions that you're like, okay, you know, whatever.
Guys, I want to say thanks so much for being on the podcast tonight.
Yay.
Bravo.
Ditto.
It's so great to have to kick off the horror phase
Season.
of the script, our Halloween primer. As in the next couple of months, we're going to do a bunch of great horror related stuff. So thanks again. Woo-hoo. The script is produced by Jordan Rosengarten and David Negrin. You can email us, spam mail us, hate mail us, comments, questions, proclamations to scriptfeed@gmail.com. Check out our Facebook page by searching for NYC Screenwriters Collective. Follow us on Twitter @scriptfeed. If you live in New York City, please sign up for one of our workshops at screenwriterscollective.org.